given opportunity, I think the National Assembly will also be bashed for failing certain things. So, Chair, I think we need to seriously consider.
So let's take those four, and then we'll take another round, Honorable Mwakali. And all of us have quite a number of concerns and questions, so if you could put them down. I think we'll take 5 at a time, answer those, and then come back to it.
I just have one question to the chairman.
At first, I would also wish to express my disappointment at the poor showing of the Commission in this meeting. This being our very first debate pioneer meeting, and only the chairman has appeared. Yet we have the other 4 members who we vetted at the past not more than 3 months ago. I think it is important that in future meetings we have the entire commission, just like we do with the other commissions who come at our ambit. Secondly, Chair, I have gone through the brief that has been presented by EACC to us, and my question is, what happened to the Nairobi County case? It is no longer featuring in this matter. And you remember, as a follow-up to our meetings last year, the EACC froze the accounts of the county treasurer. And I think he was also charged, but we have never been given an update. I would also want to ask the Commission, how comes in that matter of loss of millions at the Nairobi County, they only investigated the accounts of the city treasurer, yet the governor himself and the former county secretary are also signatories to that account. And also a very important matter to the residents of Nairobi, that it is important to note every year Nairobi City County collects about 12 billion in form of single business licenses, permits, rates, etc. And then they get about 8 to 10 billion of the county share of revenue from the national government allocation. To say a total of between 65 billion to 70 billion has been given to the governor of Nairobi. And there have been several complaints which we as members of this committee and as members of parliament in Nairobi have gone to as far as visiting EACC offices to complain that the Nairobi City County is operating over 40 accounts without the authority of the Auditor General and against the Constitution. They are spending money they have collected from the people of Nairobi without first putting all those revenues into a consolidated fund as is stipulated by the rule. So what happens in Nairobi County, Madam Chair, is that money is spent at source. So it is even very hard to collect all the amounts that are raised from national government allocation, from licenses, from rates, because they are put in different accounts. We would want to hear from this committee, from this commission, what they are doing about the city of Nairobi management. Whether they have also bothered to carry out a lifestyle audit on the governor himself, on his chief of staff, on top officials, on the persons who are members of the executive committee of lands and planning, who we have information and knowledge that they are grabbing all open spaces in this city of Nairobi. The people of Nairobi would be interested to know how helpful is this commission in safeguarding the revenues that are collected in Nairobi. We would also want to hear what achievements they have been made since the president directed the establishment of a multi-agency approach, whereby EACC, DPP, NSIS, DCI have come together so that even the judiciary, so that they can hasten investigation and prosecution. We want a brief from them to tell us what they are doing to serve the people of Nairobi and to serve the people of Kenya. And we want facts, we want figures, really not a lot of theorizing, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Which is lifestyle audits. And then I'll deal with the other major ones as well. Now, I would like honourable members, Madam Chair, to recognize that lifestyle audits is going to be one of the tools in the new EACC, in the sense of the profiling of institutions that we're going to have, and the focus then that each of those profiled institutions receives. If an institution is profiled to be corrupt, Nairobi County among the counties, Ministry of Lands among the ministries, or wherever we go, that EACC resources will be directed there. First of all, ensuring that those responsible for safeguarding public assets take responsibility, and secondly, to make sure that exceptions which occur in the event they don't take responsibility, that those exceptions are then handled by us to the extent our mandate allows, and by others to the extent that the mandate belongs elsewhere. So, Madam Chair, responding to the issue about how we select an institution so that it doesn't compromise the rules of natural justice, there will be logic behind selection of institutions where these lifestyle audits are going to be applied. And I would like to kind of hit the one point you just raised there, which is the value that I see in the exchanges that the Commission has with this forum, with this committee, and that this forum, these exchanges are structured, are more regular, because where we are is a very lonely place. We have no friends. We have very few places where constructive ideas can come from, and I would like this to be, in fact, the first point of call, and I would like it to be available. So, because lifestyle audit is one of our major initiatives, together with the refreshing in terms of profiling institutions and going into them, the plans for it will be ready by the end of the 100 days, and that is the one thing that I would like to say we're going to be getting ready for the country. And if by the end of that 100 days we have a quorum here, we come and outline for you what we're talking about, we'll take your inputs to help us to take it forward. So that is on lifestyle audits. It is a new area for Kenya. It frightens a lot of people, but it need not frighten the people who are on the side of right. The ones who are on the side of wrong will be frightened. They will fight back. And again, we need to be tactful about how we do this, because, people will shoot you. People will they'll do all manner of things to make sure that they don't lose what they have got. So we have to be tactful, even as you shape your own expectations. I think I just remember that this is something that will be gradual, but it's coming. And at our 100 days meeting, which, Madam Chair, I ask that you have scheduled. We took office on 18th of January, so count 100 days from there, and then a meeting around that time for us to come and account to this team. The second point I would like to address, with your permission, Madam Chair, is one on accountability for the reforms, whereby we are asking agencies and executives within agencies to take responsibility. I think that came from the honourable member over there, Bishop. What has happened in the past is EACC carries out investigations as one of its activities. Once we finish those investigations in law, we pass them on to the DPP. What we haven't got legal support for is when we go into an institution and we find the institution is weak, it's prone to corruption, and the executive in that place is meant to take responsibility for correcting what the issues he has. We have no legal backing for that. And so that's one of the proposals that we'll be coming forward with, to strengthen executive responsibility for safeguarding public assets where it is seen that the institution is weak, that the risk of corruption is high, and therefore for that executive to demonstrate how he is going to discharge his duty to the public. So that's one of the conversations we'll be having, and we shall help with framing that for implementation. The next point to do with that is basically the tone at the top. The tone at the top here starts with the head of state. He is clear on his position around corruption. Now that clarity needs to be followed by conversation, which I will have with him, others will have with him. But that tone at the top is then followed by what really do you mean? And what are you prepared to put behind this intolerance? If actions are of this nature, would the power of the state come and support those actions? So that conversation is happening even as we speak, and by the 100 days I'm hoping to report that I was in a meeting with the head of state and we have talked about ABC. If that meeting doesn't happen, I'll probably come to this committee to help facilitate the meeting, because it's very important that the tone at the top is then supported by clarity. What does that mean? Because zero tolerance to corruption also means that there are these actions which need to be taken. Those actions have political consequences, and therefore EACC is not, EACC is not in a position to deal with political consequences as such. So that, I think, combining clarifying the legal framework around accountability for performance and clarifying the meaning of intolerance to corruption right through the executive system will help us to be in a better place than where we are now. And that is also going to be with the judiciary. It's also going to be with the National Assembly and with the Senate and the independent commissions as well. So again, when we have this conversation at the end of our 100 days, I'll have something to report on that. What other reforms do we require related to that point? What we have seen, and I attach this, Madam Chair, to your point about performance measurement linked to the rate of conviction. The law as it stands now goes something like this. EACC will investigate, will pass the file to the DPP. The DPP will either prosecute or not, or send the file back to us. There's no compulsion. There's no governance in that Director of Public Prosecution decision. It's a one-man place. There's actually one place in our governance system right now where one office and one office alone takes that kind of decision. If you go to court, you can appeal. You can appeal from magistrate's court or court of appeal. You can go to the Supreme Court. If it's a DPP, nothing. And that is a challenge to some of the work that we do, because we could do a good job, believe that this is a watertight case, we recommend it, and nothing happens. And it still appears that we have not done a good job. So if there's legislative reform, it's going to be having some way of governing that space, so that the decision not to take forward a prosecution is informed by more than one perspective. Now, we also talked about public vetting of officers, so that you have the right quality of individuals coming forward. We talked about moral standards, talked about profile of individuals, about examples that we set. I think there is legislative intervention that will be required there. We'll come forward with more specifics in terms of the role that either EACC or as a similar institution can play in us having effective vetting. The multi-agency team scenario can help, but the law as it stands right now, it's not strong enough to facilitate good vetting. You've seen some of the flip-flopping that has been happening. It's because loopholes that are there in legislation can be exploited and people can come forth who do not deserve to come forward. Madam Chair, you brought up the issue of the staff vetting, which is which we are now kind of commissioning. Your question was the extent to which there will be public participation and what provision is being made of that. Now, we've had an engagement at the Commission on this issue, and basically, staff vetting has a methodology that we shall follow. That methodology aims to avail us of as much information as we believe we ought to have to do a credible piece of work. And so we're not going to limit ourselves to what is just there. You may in fact look forward to us announcing this in the paper saying, pursuant to Section 6 of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act, Amendment 2015 or whatever, EACC is going to do the following. The objective of the exercise is ABC. If you have any information, but the information has to be supported by affidavit or whatever safeguards you want to put around malicious claims, please send it to, and it will be a secure address where such information will go. So we shall have a mechanism where we shall avail ourselves of good information to enable us to do a good job, but also taking care not to kind of take in information that can harm people's personalities without cause. So I think that's the answer to your question there. You've brought up the issue of independence. That's quite important to us and linked to branding of EACC. Actually, where we sit right now, EACC is at its lowest. It's seen as not independent. It's seen as not objective. It's seen as not impartial. It has all manner of negatives around it. It's seen as being ineffective because, as you rightly say, things are taking a long time to go through, etc. And even if there are no facts to any of those adjectives that I put up, the Commission does not want to discount them. I think we're using them as a source of learning. And in the case of independence, for that matter, we're taking the cue from the law. We are supposed to be independent. And I take myself as a team leader to champion that particular attribute into the Commission. And so we will go by that. We shall be and be seen to be independent. Where there are issues that seem to suggest compromise around that independence, we will be taking action consistent with the regulations that we have. In a nutshell, basically, rebranding EACC is one of our top priorities, to get this institution to be a premium institution carrying out a mandate of the magnitude that it has. And we cannot do that if those kinds of adjectives I mentioned are associated with us. Okay. Now, I don't have I've got a long list of actions around rebranding I could share with you, but I don't think this is a place to do that. Rather, what I would like to promise is when we come for the 100-day accountability, we'll give you a flavor of what will have happened until then, some of the indications around the results of those actions, and what we can look to happen in the days to follow. So rebranding, appearance of independence, and being actually independent of executive, of judiciary, of the National Assembly, of all the other organs of government. Section 28 of our own act says, we should be independent, and so we shall be. Yeah. Okay. And Madam Chair, I think in terms of the big points, those are the ones I picked up, but there were a number of other lessons, learning points we've picked up, which we shall take into account as we develop the way that we work. Thank you. Unless there's one major one that I've missed, and I can address it specifically.
No, I think so far we are happy, and we're just looking at the calendar, and you are indeed right that at the expiry of the 100 days from 18th of January, I think the committee will invite you again.
Yes.
And we'll look at some of the issues that we have promised ourselves to look at.
Of Nairobi is continuing to engage in corruption by refusing to collect all its revenues into a consolidated fund as is stipulated by law. They are putting the money in 40 different accounts. And this is corruption that is continuing. Is the EACC just going to sit there and watch the governor of Nairobi and his county government engaging in corruption?
Madam Chair, with your permission, I would like to address that one specifically.
I think that the question is legitimate and the question is valid.
Yes.
And we're going to come to it as well ourselves on the systems that we are putting in place in terms of...
Thank you, Madam Chair. The source of information into EACC that triggers investigation is either our own intelligence or reports by different entities. Now, when reports come in, we obviously become a part of that group of issues that are dealt with. Now, specific to the issue of public financial management that the Honourable Member refers to and which you, Madam Chair, have referred to, there are regulations which are the responsibility of Treasury to implement. Now, EACC's mandate is about combating corruption. We can see where Treasury may not be implementing the right systems, and we can make the report. And as we speak right now, issues similar to what you have described are on the table as themes where corruption is rife and are going to be taken up as we go into the future. So the profiling I've talked about actually does take into account factors such as what you mentioned. But as we build our expectations, let's remember that EACC has a specific mandate, and that other organs of government who, by the way we work with, also have their specific mandates, and will make sure that while carrying out ours, we also exert pressure on them to carry out theirs for us to jointly combat corruption. Madam Chair, on list of shame to the President, I think some fairly charged comments made about this in terms of the investigations having been preliminary on the information going out and the impact that this had on individuals and so forth. We have engaged with this situation ourselves as new commissioners to learn lessons out of it. We've had a detailed presentation about exactly what happened. We have that understanding, and the lessons that emerged have been taken on board, and I do not expect going forward that we'll be having these sorts of situations to recur. Asset recovery record, details required. I think that is requesting additional information. It's a question of how we can figure out future reports in terms of how we share.
Quarterly and annual reports.
And in the annual report, you'll definitely see the listing of what these assets are. And the quarterly reports will also provide some details about what is dealt with at a particular time. Some fairly strong contribution around delays in investigations, where in other jurisdictions cases have been concluded, people taken to court, items being recovered, etc. Madam Chair, honourable members, we've had a look at this as well. We've had conversations with other officers which are in the chain of the work that we do. And our understanding at this point is that the jurisdictions being different, there are different standards of evidence that are required for you to sustain a prosecution. Whereas the UK may have concluded its cases, it may have in fact recovered assets, and it's an open and shut case for them. My understanding from the officers concerned is that in fact we too have our jurisdiction here, and that there are standards of evidence that must be collected before we work our way through the system, and that is exactly what is going on at the moment. Now, I'm also reminded, and this is fact, that the UK investigations on Chickengate, on the Jassy cases started, and Chickengate, they started in the year 2005. They've taken 10 years to get to where they have. Now, whereas it won't take us 10 years, we're going to leapfrog by using what information they have collected, but my understanding is due process, the rule of law, must be observed, and even as we use the information that has now been given to us. The global ranking in corruption for the country being at number 3 right now. This is one of the inputs to our strategy focus. We are helping ourselves by understanding what keeps us here. Is it the speed of investigations, the rate of prosecutions, the experience that people have with different offices so that they perceive corruption to be the case? So all that analysis going into what makes us number 3 in the world is going into the actions that, again, I keep sharing with you here about a refreshed strategy which the Commission is taking ownership of and which we're going to be implementing as we go forward. Now, Madam Chair, you raised the issue of the 100 days achievements, rapid results. It is an area that we have looked at as a Commission, and it's an area that we are approaching with caution, because this fight didn't start today. The reasons why we are where we are not reasons that have come up today. They are part and parcel of the fabric of our society, and they are going to require sustained intervention, an intervention which we are reasoning through, and we're going to be sharing it at this forum and other forums, which we believe is going to help us to turn around. So for me and for the commissioners, when they do come, I think the consensus is it's better for us to lay a foundation and work on a foundation that can deliver, rather than rushing in to demonstrate achievement, be it for public relations, be it for demonstrating that we have arrived. That is, we don't think, going to be the answer to the issues that we face. And on this issue of the absence of commissioners, I'd like to apologize for, in a way, not getting the signal from the correspondences we have had. And going forward, you will see all the commissioners here whenever we engage with you. And if you got any more to add.
Chair, the issue of multi-agency approach to work and the benefits so far. The team has been working together for the last 3 or 4 months now, and we've really seen a lot of progress in this approach to delivering the investigative as well as even prosecutorial services. One, when we started off EACC, DCI, and the DPP. At that point, the FRC, the Financial Reporting Center, and the Assets Recovery Agencies were both nearly non-existent. We advocated for them to be facilitated, fast-tracked in as far as their creations and staffing is concerned, and that has been done. And even though I know the FRC has been in place for years, the kind of information we've been getting as a commission from them to facilitate our investigations have been very minimal, very few per year. For example, in 2014, we got 1, and that was useful, yes. In 2013, we got 1. But since we started this framework, every week we get new information from them, promptly and proactively, without being provoked to do so. And within this framework, we've revisited quite a number of previous cases that have been looked at, like the the NYS issues like the Imperial Bank and the rest. And we are defining new frames of progressing in investigations as well as prosecution, because we sit with the DPP also. Now, only on the NYS alone, we've managed through the efforts of all these institutions to freeze both accounts and seize assets to the tune of 500 million shillings as at yesterday. So we really see a lot of benefit out of this. We only need to see that it's given more and more authority and support and facilitation in as far as progress is concerned. One other comment I want to give in as far as one of the questions is Honorable B also mentioned, what's the problem? Is there an issue? Is there a problem? Madam Chair, you remember that in nearly every of our visit or meeting with this committee, we've shared various areas of weak links in fighting corruption. As at this morning, we report that we have over 400 cases in courts. Some of them are 10 years old. Some of them have never been heard for 5 years. We have been engaging the judiciary. We've also been engaging this committee to engage with other institutions as part of our participation. I remember mostly in 2014 and early last year, we engaged on all this. Yes, I can report progress that the Chief Justice set up a High Court division which deals with corruption and economic crimes in December, as well as another court which deals with commercial and tax issues. They are starting off in March, which is this year. He also increased the number of magistrates to look at the backlog of all these cases and listen or hear the cases on day-to-day basis, on back-to-back basis from this month. So we are yet to see the progress from the court in as far as productivity to that extent is concerned, but policy and decision making from that point of view has also shown us progress, because the approach we've had in multi-agency sitting together and engaging has yielded to this, because we've been crying for these courts, as you can recall, for the last few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think the answers for the first round are done.
Kamonti Mumkale, MP Rabai, and member of JLAC.
Mutemi, nominated member of parliament and a member of this committee.
Paul B, member of this committee.
Moses Cheboy, Kuresoi North Constituency, and a member of this committee.
Member of this committee.
I was reminding him of his new title, pastor, because he's the one who prayed for our constituency and a member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, we have with us the commissioners from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption. Ask them to come for this particular meeting. It was an invitation by our committee, and the purpose for this particular meeting is very simple, and I'll highlight it. That sometimes last year we'd agreed to always meet periodically so that at least we get a brief, so that we're constantly in touch with the work that you do. Now, this particular invitation was sent to you by our clerkship, sometimes dated the 3rd of March. And the particular reason for which you were invited today was to, one, we would like to see a roadmap with the commissioners coming in anew. We would like to see the roadmap that the commission is planned that will put in place in terms of fighting corruption. And that particular roadmap ought to highlight, one, what you plan in the vetting of staff in the various government departments. The second thing is lifestyle audit issues. The third would be progress on cases under investigation. And the fourth would be budget and financial plans. So without taking too much of your time from the delegation of manner, you please, and after that I'll be asking the members to interrogate, interject as for.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable members. We are happy that we have this overview, the work that has been going on, and also give you a sense of the direction that the Commission is taking, which has emerged from, first of all, our understanding, our taking time to understand what the affairs of the Commission have been, our familiarizing ourselves with the operations of the Commission, and also bringing to bear our own views about how we can take the fight against corruption forward. Now, as you will see from the handout that has been shared, I think each of the honorable members has a copy, we have highlighted a number of areas that we work on in order to combat corruption. Remember that the mandate of the EACC is combating and fighting corruption, and we do so through enforcement of the law, as the law provides. We also do so by collaborating with other agencies in conducting that enforcement. We have got the powers to vet persons who apply to join the public service. So we have a department that is helping us with that. It's still new, but it's being set up. And we're also looking to holding other heads of agencies or heads of other agencies to account in the fight against corruption. And last but not least, we have a prevention strategy that involves public awareness, sensitization, research, public mobilization, and education. And I'll just comment a little bit on the elements and allow honorable members to go and read in detail what we have presented. But basically to say that each of those aspects of the fight against corruption in terms of strategy have been there. We've had them before. The law has been there, which we're drawing this from. Now, what is new under this dispensation has come about by us asking ourselves why we have not been more successful. And the answer is emerging in several ways. First of all, that our focus has not been as good. Given the limited resources we have not been as focused as could be. And so going forward, we're going to be, as I've said in a different forum, looking at the country, determining which areas are most prone to corruption, and focusing EACC's efforts on those areas. And part of that review is going to be informed by an annual survey that will be conducted, released every February, to rank different institutions and entities and themes in our country. And with those rankings, we shall then devote both prevention and investigative efforts in there with key objectives to make sure that those institutions and those areas have a turnaround. The other new thing that I would like to bring to the attention of the committee is the fact that EACC cannot possibly fight corruption alone. In fact, that is envisaged in the law that EACC will work with other agencies. Now, the way that we work with the other agencies, whilst it's not been specified to the minute detail, we see it as being in a number of ways. First of all, that the other agencies which are executive in nature, whether they're in national government, county government, judiciary, or legislature, that those agencies take responsibility for looking after public assets under their watch. That in fact we have got executives in those different agencies, whether it is accounting officers or heads at various levels, whose job it is. The payment to them includes them looking after the resources that belong to the public. So EACC is going to help to build an environment where those individuals in positions are held to account for the fiduciary responsibilities that they have over public assets under their watch. Now, that part of the work is going to be informed in part by us supporting those institutions and those agencies to have strong systems, because we have a department within the EACC that does systems reviews. Working alongside the Auditor General, he goes there every year, he does systems audits, and he comes up with management letters. So bringing together this oversight activity around ensuring we have strong systems, but most importantly is holding to account the officers, the senior officers, whose job it is to safeguard public assets. So that's a new thing. It's there. It's not been brought out as strongly, and many a time you've seen EACC go into a place. We investigate isolated cases. We, to varying levels of success, try to hold people to account. But that, as far as we are concerned, is not necessarily the right way. We have to be holistic. We have to look at whole institutions. We have to look at responsibility holistically and hold people to account. What that means is that the tone that the president has set at the top, declaring corruption as a national security threat, needs to translate into us leaving those actions. If it's a threat, and there are individuals in positions who are not doing their jobs to help us address the threat, I think those individuals should be held to account and sanctioned within the law. And EACC would like to catalyze that. And those two points are actually the hallmark of the prevention strategy that we're going to be pressing on with. Mr. Chairman, you have brought up specific points on our strategy, which include talking about lifestyle audit. I would like to mention that within the old approach and also going forward with investigations as a way to combat corruption, we have got procedures where we receive information about allegations of misconduct or unethical practice or lack of integrity. We sift that information to determine the way that we'll deal with it. And once it's determined we're going to investigate a particular case, part of the investigation will now routinely include carrying out a lifestyle audit on the individuals who are involved in that particular case. Now, what lifestyle audit is simply this. Individuals are known to have assets, being public officers. We expect them to declare their assets every 2 years. Individuals will have declared their different sources of income, and the lifestyle audit merely looks at the lifestyle of the individual, the assets they own, versus the known sources of wealth. And if there's a mismatch, then the individual is asked to explain how he or she received what has not been accounted for by the known sources. It's a fairly powerful tool. It's used in different jurisdictions to great effect, and I mean, for over the last few months, it's being built into how we conduct our investigations. So that is going to be more done more as we go forward. Now, on a more holistic level, we are working on a proposal whereby lifestyle audit becomes a routine within the public service, and because it is fairly involving, it may be that you have a program over a number of years where different cadre of staff are then covered by this audit. Finally, on strategy, Mr. Chairman, there's the rest of the prevention strategy around awareness, public education, and public sensitization. I think we're being informed here by the truism that prevention is better than cure. And whereas in the past we have spent a huge amount of resource on investigation of individual cases, we would like to rebalance that so that we tackle more the area of informing the public about the evils of corruption, getting our different institutions to take on their responsibility for accepting that corruption is bad and that practicing it is not permissible under the law or morally, and down into areas of taking up public office, which is the issue that is coming via our requirement to vet people who are taking on public office. Strengthening the vetting office so that we can more competently contribute to selecting people who take on positions of leadership. So prevention is going to receive a fair amount of emphasis in our new strategy. Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, I can then move on to the area beyond, and we can always go back to specific points later. I can now move on to the specific point you have raised in the agenda on vetting of staff. I would like to note that this was a provision in the law that was passed in 2015. It's one of the sections that require that after the commissioners take office, that we would vet all staff on board on the date that we take office within a period of 1 year. Mr. Chairman, honorable members, I'd like to report that the exercise has commenced with the planning that is underway, and actual vetting of individuals will be starting physically around about the month of May. We're doing the planning, we're doing the logistics right now, and we expect this will take us 3 to 4 months. So by September, we expect to have completed the vetting of all our staff as per the provisions of the law. Now, a question as to how we shall do it and the resources that we shall be using. Basically, this will be a commissioner-led exercise for obvious reasons that our staff members would be conflicted in leading this. So the commissioners will lead this, but drawing on resources from wherever we believe appropriate, and that's going to be both within the commission and within other arms of government, especially those who have already had experience of carrying out this kind of vetting. Mr. Chairman, honorable members, the issue of lifestyle audits I've already touched on. I'll go to number 4, under investigation. Now here, the area can be as broad or as narrow as the interest of honorable members. But basically what we have done once we got in there is to take stock of the Commission's workload, bringing to the fore cases that are regarded as of high profile or high public interest, for us to have a good understanding of those cases and to satisfy ourselves that they're being handled professionally and that we're following all the procedures we've set for ourselves. But beyond that, we have initiated an exercise to determine the totality of the inventory of cases that the Commission has got. Because unless we know this totality, chances are we're going to miss a number of things that we shouldn't, because cases are in there perhaps which have been there around for more than 10 years. Those cases involve people, and unless they are disposed of, those individuals are still under the radar, and that's not appropriate. So in fact, the kind of backlog we used to have in the judiciary, we also would be suffering the same kind of issue in there, and we're taking stock right now in order to determine what that backlog is, and we'll have a specific exercise around clearing it and making sure that the work of the Commission is transparent. Now, on these cases, now we have before court right now more than 400 cases. These are cases we have investigated. We have found that the evidence is appropriate to sustain a recommendation to the DPP. We've passed them to the DPP. He has taken them to court. So they've done the full chain from investigation through recommendation through prosecution. Now, you all members, Chairman, you'll recall that sometime last year, it's coming to a year just now, about a year now, EACC tabled a list in Parliament of what was regarded as, what was in fact then called the list of shame. Popularly, this was reported as having, I think, 175 cases on it, etc. In the end, we determined that these were 124 cases. The President read it all out there. He took a number of actions, and this is all in the public domain. Now, since then, and over the last year, investigations have continued, and further work has continued on those cases. Now, if members cast their minds back, you remember that some of the cases were very preliminary. Investigations hadn't advanced. Some of the allegations were still premature. But we are where we were. And so, where we are now, the cases have been progressed. Arising from that, 161 people, this is public officials, Arising from that list, 161 public officials have been charged in court. Some of them were high-ranking individuals, and again, it's in the public domain who those individuals were. And as I said, those investigations are continuing. The list is, the team is working down the list in addition to working on its other mandates. Now, on asset recoveries, I think the best way to cover this is to look at the history of the Commission over the last 12 years or so. Now, over that period, as you see in the presentation over there, we've recovered about 9 billion shillings. And that's in assets, and there's about 600 million shillings in cash. Now, the question that has arisen in the public's mind is whether this is good performance. That question remains out there in the sense that asset recovery without strong legislation has been less impressive compared to where we are headed now. Just recently we had the Proceeds of Anti-Corruption and Money Laundering Act passed. The Asset Recovery Center, Asset Recovery Authority has been put in place. The Financial Reporting Center has been set up, and all these initiatives going forward will support EACC's work in identifying and pursuing the recovery of illegally acquired assets. But for now, the performance in terms of recoveries, you have it in that presentation. Now, over the same period, in fact, just over the last year or so, EACC did help to disrupt some major potential corruption cases. The value of those, in terms of averted loss, is about 3.6 billion, including cases to do with land, cases to do with specific economic transactions. So the purpose of this, Honourable Members, Chairman, was to just give you a flavor of progress on those cases at a high level in terms of number, in terms of the people who are in court, the progress that I now know to be being made with our investigation team, and a sense of some of the recoveries we're making and the disruptions we have caused. Now, on the major cases, I will not go into the detail of outlining the nature of each of these, but we've put in the handout there are about 7 or so, 8 or so cases which we wanted to share with you in terms of where they are. And the Eurobond is right up on top there. This is to do with the money that the government raised in the sale of debt to the international market. A number of questions have been raised. On the one hand, to do with whether the money raised was ever received by the government, whether this money ever came into the country. And that is the question that ended up at the EACC. The team applied itself to it. They came up to the conclusion that the money that was raised under Eurobond, the $2 billion worth of sales, that this money, in fact, did come into the country. That recommendation supported the EACC's, that finding supported EACC's recommendation to the DPP to say, we find no problem here. We recommend you close the file. This was just before we came into office. The DPP felt that there were areas which needed further elaboration, further investigation. And at the same time, we also came on board and have embraced the need to understand exactly what happened around the proceeds of Eurobond monies that were raised. So that file is soon to be completed and taken back to DPP with the findings that will have occurred up until then. Now, I know the public, through you, Mr. Chairman, and honourable members of the public, is concerned about this particular issue. The Commission is paying particular attention to it to make sure that the findings and the investigations and that all the questions that are arising will be fully answered insofar as the mandate of EACC is concerned. Then we got to the Triton case. The allegations, again, are well known. Somebody or a team of people conspired to defraud Kenya Pipeline of a sum of money, 2.6 billion. The conspirators are listed in there. The case has done its work, its way through the investigation process. In the case of those individuals, the 8 individuals over there, we know that they have all been arraigned in court. We know that in the case of Divani, he's actually a fugitive out in the UK, fighting a repatriation battle through the court system. So to the extent that we've done our work and passed the case on for prosecution, and that in other jurisdictions, the case is that much more advanced, I would like to say that we've done our work and the rest of the justice value chain is doing its. The next case there, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, has to do with the Jassy investigations. This has been around quite a while, involving some senior individuals in our country, both in the executive and the parastatal sector. Our investigations have been done, and in fact the investigations by the authorities in Jassy were done and concluded. Assets out there have been sequestered or frozen, seized by the foreign government. In fact, as we discuss right now, conversations are ongoing for about $500 million shillings or worth of the seized assets to be returned to Kenya. So the case, insofar as the external jurisdiction is concerned, is virtually concluded. Kenya is working through mutual legal assistance to make sure that whatever information is available to them is also available to us, in order for us to support the conclusion of that particular case. Now, various arguments have been put up by the Kenyans implicated in this case, largely around whether this was a crime in Kenya at the time that it was committed in the other jurisdiction, but that is a matter that is before the courts. We believe that they'll handle that. Then number 4 is the Chicken Gate scandal, the very famous case right now, where a number of our senior personnel, both at the interim, I always get this wrong. I always get this wrong, actually. Interim Independent Electoral Commission, Boundaries Commission. Our officers then, it's not the current IEC, the officers at the interim one, going back some years. Those officers have been implicated in claims of bribery in order to influence the procurement process for materials. Same as officers at our National Examinations Council, who are implicated in claims that they received bribes in order to influence procurement of materials to those institutions. Now, in the UK, where the supplier is domiciled, the cases are concluded. I think, honorable members, you chairman, we know this. The Kenya government has instituted, or rather it's requested mutual legal assistance for evidence that was used in those convictions to be made available to us here through the Office of the Attorney General. And as I've said before, this evidence eventually got to the EACC on 29th of January, and we are using it to supplement what other information we had on our investigation files in order to complete our investigations and take the files forward. Now, I did mention about 2 weeks back that this was going to be concluded in a fortnight at that time. It's taken a little longer because of just our processes in there. But I understand that the investigations are going on pretty well, and in the not too distant future, they will be concluded, and the cases, with the recommendations from us, will be taken forward. I think you've probably been seeing some action in the media, interviews happening involving individuals involved here. And finally, Mr. Chairman, Chicken Gate 51 million shillings, which is monies that were confiscated on its way to the individuals. Now that money, actually, what the government in the UK has done is to say 51 million is what was bribed. The assets of the culprits are worth so much more. It will take 51 million shillings from those assets and avail it to Kenya as a compensation, because in the first place, what was being used to pay the bribes was the Kenyan public's money, and modalities are being worked out for that money to be returned to us. On Anglo leasing, this is an old case, which involved 8 specific instances. That's in number 5, in Roman 5, in item number 5 there. Now, members, Honorable Chairman, you'll know this has been around a very long time. And actually, as we come into the EACC now, I'd like to recognize the efforts that the team at EACC did put in the recent past to have 3 of the 8 cases concluded with determinations being made whether people are going to be prosecuted, whether recoveries are going to be made, and what those recoveries are, seeking specific legal mutual assistance out of Switzerland in particular, the UK also. So 3 of the 8 cases have been concluded through the EACC process, and the next steps are being taken. But we still have another 5 which are listed within that handout. Now these are before the courts, and they are a matter of public information, the various contests that are going on. And in the case where we're being asked to provide more information, the team at EACC is again working through its processes, including mutual legal assistance, which I've referred to, in order to support the prosecution processes that are underway. National Youth Service is another. Now, this was the case that gave the new commissioners the baptism by fire, because we turned up, and this case also showed up, and in various ways, we were caught in the crosshairs and crossfires of what was going on then. We've taken time to kind of step back to see what exactly is going on, and I would like to share with the Commission that that understanding is improving by day, in the sense that you will recall earlier on there was the now famous clearance that was given to one of the individuals involved in this, former Cabinet Secretary Waiguru. Now that had to be clarified in the sense that the investigations leading to the clearance were one track. The investigations leading to the stickiness we had around 791 million were another track. So, the government, were not speaking to each other, so that we kind of made the mistakes we did. And the lessons which were learned there are now being brought to bear on how we handle this case going forward. Now, the 791 investigation, in my view, is rightly being looked at by us and by other agencies in government. But the question which the commissioners are asking themselves, and which EACC in total is asking itself, is whether, in fact, we should be transactional in how we look at the issues at NYS. Because on the one hand, we did one piece of work and we said, that's okay. In another case, another piece of work comes up with an affidavit, and it says there's a problem here. Who knows what will come up next? And therefore, what will we look like if we don't take a holistic view of the issues around NYS? So those are the questions we're asking ourselves. And in the near future, we will be coming up with a response to that and a way of dealing with the NYS saga that should be more comforting to the public. But the 791 investigation is underway. It's going on. You've seen what is happening right now. But as I said, I would like to qualify expectations of the public around that with the answer to the question I just asked. Should we be looking at individual transactions, or should we look at the totality? And given that government has machinery to audit things, and government has machinery to take holistic views, why don't we just do that and get this thing over with once and for all? So we'll be keeping you posted in terms of how that progresses. And on cases, coming to the end on cases, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, is BAT bribery claims, allegations. These are, again, in the public domain, fairly sensational revelations about senior politicians receiving bribes in order to influence the Kenya Revenue Authority. This is being looked at by us, together with similar allegations that come in. The Nyeri County Government, there we did an investigation where a number of individuals were charged. And Murang'a County Government, this attracted a fair amount of press when our officers went in and they collected records, and there was some altercations between our officers and members of staff within the county, etc. But these are just ordinary businesses of the commission, and I wouldn't be encouraging you, Chairman, honourable members, or the public, in fact, to read anything in this, or if indeed there's issues that we need to be aware of going forward as lessons, those lessons will be taken on board. But let's remember that devolved units of governance are only perhaps a couple of years old in terms of managing finances and dealing with issues of this nature. In terms of risk to corruption, I mean, that is, it's not unusual that this will be the case, and EACC will be seen in those places trying to safeguard public property. And by the way, it's not just Murang'a or Nyeri, for that matter, at this moment, which is being looked at. It's the entire 47 counties having issues, and our officers being there at different stages of engagement. And in fact, I'm now informed of the 47, 20 of the counties have contributed customers for the courts already as we speak. So, it's an area that will settle after a while, after we have enough experience with the devolved system of government. Mr. Chairman, honorable members, with your permission, I'll now move on to the financial bit here. First of all, dealing with the allocation 16, current year is 2.3 billion, which has been enhanced to about 3.2 billion with an allocation from our participation in the multi-agency task team that was set up. And then the Commission has also got about 300 million to start financing its acquisition of its premises in the next year and the year beyond. For 2016-2017, we are looking for an enhancement to that allocation of an enhancement of about 3 billion, because as we sit right now, I don't believe that we have the capacity to handle all of what we have got in terms of manpower or even space, technology, and so forth. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, having kind of raced through that to hit most of the points that you wanted us to address, I would like to say what is in there. That the commissioners are on board, working hand in hand with the team that we found, which is now basically we're part and parcel of the one team that we're supposed to be. We are fine-tuning our strategy so that we, in a way, re-energize the fight against corruption. And I've given you some of the elements of that fine-tuning and that refreshing. And I'm confident that with the support that would come from this committee, support that will come from the National Assembly, the Senate, the Executive, Judiciary, that EACC can indeed discharge its responsibility under its mandate. And we can.
My question seems to be for all of us, not only the Commission. Because when you look at this, the series of history in the documents here, like the Anglo-Leasing case, has taken more than, I think it is almost 20 years. with such a scenario, question 1, is the EACC necessary? That is what I ask myself. Number 2, you can guess. Yeah. Number 2, I'm asking that way because this body, that is why even I was almost against the issue of budgetary allocation you are requesting, because this money, to me, has never helped this country. It may not be your problem. We want you to tell us your real problem. Is it the investigators? Because that is the second question with what you forwarded through the president to parliament. Was your investigation so shoddy so that you can forward people who do not have grounds to be prosecuted? When a case takes such a long time, what are we telling the country? In another word, or in another interpretation, it could mean that you are also encouraging people to be corrupt, because somebody will be saying, if Goldenberg could be in court for 20 years through manipulation and what have you. So is the problem you? Is it the court? What's happening in this country? I think you have some dilemma. The way I understand you, you have some dilemma. Third question. Recently you came to Bomet last year over some allocation of some CEC members. And we were very happy, even the community were very happy when you ran to their homes, took photographs of their structures, what they are doing. But finally, the questions comes back to you. We are made to understand that those who are suspected should be earning half salary. Have you revisited the case in Bomet to confirm whether those CECs are still in office and earning full salary? And what have you done? In fact, the public were very happy, but you disappeared somehow. So that now there is a new cycle of allocation that some of you are being also bribed. So that these things appears to be ceremonial. So that we shall be sitting here for 20 years with Goldenberg. Surely it's not ceremonial. Thank you very much.
Poor showing of the commission in this meeting. This being our very first debate pioneer meeting, and only the chairman has appeared. Yet we have the other 4 members who we vetted at the past not more than 3 months ago. And to the Nairobi County case, it is Noroga featuring in this matter. And you remember, as a follow-up to our meetings last year, the EACC froze the accounts of the county treasurer. And I think he was also charged, but we have never been given an update.
Also, you've given us a summary of what the commission has done for a number of years. It could have been prudent, Mr. Chairman, for you and the commission to come up with serious proof, because when you come up with figures, just figures 8.8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion, without exactly coming up with a proof, so that you can also prove that this is what has been done. We also interrogate and know exactly what that has been done, and if so, how has it been done, before, so that we can conclude whether the commission is seriously doing its work, or we are just cheating the public. Told us that even 51 million, which was supposed to be given to the suspects, is with the UK, and the UK government has decided to give us this money because this money was meant for the suspects. Mr. Chairman, you realize this, people have been convicted in the UK about this. What is so hard? Because from what you are telling us, it is clear that you know the suspects. It is now taking years. I can agree with my brother here, the MP for Chebarungu, that something comes here, we take 2, 3, 20 years without any results at all. are you not as a commission? Are you not really seriously? Are you not dancing to the public gallery, showing us that you are working, when in the real sense nothing's really happening at the commission? This, anyway, completely. We see the CEO and a suspect seated. We are told now this person has been cleared. We have no issues. Then we see people in the public coming up with affidavits, telling the public this is what we've been doing. Then we see the commission quickly coming together and telling us, no. Now we are now following this route. But don't you think it is serious? It's a mockery before the public. The public now thinks that the commission is really not doing much. They're just they're cheating us yet when they're exactly doing other things here. So, Mr. Chairman,
constructive questions, and as a Kenyan, questions which I too understand, and I'll try my best to shed some light on them. Was issued, that not being covered in here, I think is perhaps a question of judgment in terms of what we put in this brief and what we don't. However, that chapter, as far as we're concerned in terms of the investigations and handing over the report, the exercise was completed and the report is within the management structures of the National Assembly. Having said that, there was a question about opportunity for individuals to appear before the investigation team to clarify issues before the issues found their way into the report. Now, I cannot speak for the process that happened leading to that report because I was not on board. But basically, I think what I would like to assure you going forward is the investigation methodology that will be used is the one that should be used, and that involves giving all parties involved opportunities to clarify issues before they become reportable. Now, without the benefit of the details of what happened then, I'm not able to address that specifically, but I'll ask the CEO, who has some institutional memory on that, to perhaps help me on that one.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, what we did in Parliament was a risk audit or risk analysis process, not an investigation. And that was done on the request of the Parliamentary Service Commission, as we have explained before. And the information we gave was in a report presented to the Parliamentary Service Commission for their consumption, for the purposes of rectifying situations and especially areas that have been highlighted as ripe for risks and corruption. So it
is ESCC necessary?